You guys will never believe what happened. I just turned 18, like 6 days ago, and being an adult is already a total adventure. I'm living in this artsy apartment building in the city's creative hub, chasing my dream of becoming a graphic novelist, and my neighbor, Thomas, is this older guy with a retired librarian vibe. Think silver hair, warm eyes, and a voice that makes any story sound like it's straight out of a novel. So the other night, I was feeling super bold and I did something totally wild. Picture this. It's late, his apartment's dark, and I slip into his bed before he even notices. Just like that, I'm there, whispering in the quiet. The way his eyes lit up when he realized? Absolute electricity. Want to know how it went down? Keep watching, because this story's packed with daring moves and connections that light up the night. Like and subscribe for more. Sarah had just turned 18 6 days ago, and the thrill of her new adulthood surged through her like a burst of ink on a fresh page. Her small apartment in the city's arts district was her creative haven, cluttered with sketchbooks, colored pencils, and the faint scent of coffee, where she poured her heart into her dream of becoming a graphic novelist. The milestone of her 18th birthday felt like a key to a new world, one where she could take risks, chase her passions, and make choices that felt bold and free. Her latest comic panel, a shadowy figure slipping through a quiet city, mirrored her restless energy, its lines bold and unfinished, much like her own life right now. But lately her thoughts kept drifting to Thomas, her neighbor across the hall, whose quiet wisdom and warm presence had become a distraction she couldn't shake. At 62, Thomas was a retired librarian with a gentle charm that had caught her eye since she moved in 4 months ago. His silver hair was neatly combed, his warm brown eyes crinkled with years of reading and laughter, and his voice, low and soothing, like a well-read audiobook, made every conversation feel like a story. His good evening neighbor, in the hallway, paired with a soft smile, made her heart skip. She'd told herself it was nothing, just admiration for a kind older man who'd spent his life surrounded by books. But her new adulthood fueled a daring spark, a restless energy that pushed her to test boundaries she'd never dared before. Tonight, that spark led her to his apartment. It was past midnight, the building silent, the only sound the faint hum of the city outside her window. Sarah couldn't sleep, her mind buzzing with ideas and a reckless impulse she couldn't shake. She'd been at Thomas's earlier that day, helping him sort books for a community library donation, and their conversation about poetry, art, and the stories that shaped them had left her restless, her heart racing with a mix of curiosity and boldness. Wearing a loose t-shirt and leggings, her dark blonde hair loose and slightly tousled, she tiptoed across the hall, her heart pounding with her just-turned-18 confidence. His door was unlocked, a habit he'd mentioned, trusting the building's tight-knit community, and she slipped inside, the room dark, his steady breathing the only sound. The mattress dipped as she slid under the covers, her whisper brushing the silence like a soft brushstroke. "Don't be startled. I just turned 18. Thought I'd rather be here." Thomas's eyes opened slowly, his breath catching as he registered her presence. The dim glow from the streetlights filtered through the window, catching her hazel eyes, sparkling with mischief and a hint of nervousness. "Sarah," he said, his voice a low, surprised rumble tinged with amusement as he propped himself up on one elbow. "What on earth are you doing?" She grinned, her heart racing, the covers warm around her, the intimacy of the moment making her feel both bold and vulnerable. "Couldn't sleep," she whispered, her voice playful but charged with something deeper. "And I'm an adult now. Figured I'd see if your bed's as cozy as your stories." His brows raised, but a smile tugged at his lips, his eyes adjusting to the dark, a spark of curiosity flickering in them. "Just turned 18 and you're sneaking into beds? That's a bold move, even for you." Her cheeks flushed, but she held his gaze, her confidence teetering but steady. "Gotta make the most of it, right? New rules, new adventures." Thomas chuckled, a low, warm sound that sent a shiver down her spine, the covers shifting as he settled back, keeping a careful distance but not pulling away. "You're trouble, Sarah, breaking into an old man's apartment in the middle of the night." "Not that old," she teased, her voice soft, the air thick with flirty tension. "And I'm here now. You gonna kick me out?" His smile was slow, knowing, his eyes twinkling in the dim light. "Not my style. But you're making it hard to stay sensible." The weight of her words pressed heavier than the quiet, the space between them electric, stronger than the darkness around them. Sarah's pulse pounded, her new adulthood making her feel bold, untethered, like a character in one of her comics stepping into uncharted panels. Good, she whispered, her voice playful but honest, her heart racing with the thrill of her own daring. Sensible's overrated? They stayed like that for a moment, the silence charged, their breaths the only sound. Then Thomas laughed softly, shaking his head. You're gonna keep me on my toes, aren't you? She grinned, sliding out of the bed, needing to steady herself. Count on it. Good night, Thomas. Good night, Sarah, he said, his voice warm, promising. But don't think this gets you off the hook. The next morning, Sarah woke in her own apartment, Thomas's laugh lingering in her mind, her dreams tangled with the memory of his voice, the warmth of his bed. She shook it off, blaming her late-night impulsiveness, but her thoughts kept drifting to him as she headed to her part-time job at a local cafe. Work was busy, pouring lattes and sketching comic panels during breaks, but every time her phone buzzed, she hoped it was him. Around noon, a text came through. You left my bed in one piece. Impressive for an 18-year-old troublemaker. T. Her heart skipped, and she smiled, typing back, Barely. Just turned 18, so I'm allowed to shake things up, right? His reply was quick. You're shaking up plenty. Coffee later? I owe you for keeping me up. Her pulse raced, and she hesitated, her fingers hovering over the keys. She should keep things simple, play it safe. But her just-turned-18 heart was bold, curious, hungry for the spark she'd felt last night. You're on. I'm at the cafe till 5. Bring your best story. That afternoon, Thomas walked into the cafe, a worn paperback tucked under his arm, his grin disarming as he slid into a booth. Thought I'd bring a story as requested, he said, passing her the book, a collection of poetry, his fingers brushing hers, the contact sending a spark up her arm. Sarah took the book, her cheeks flushing as she glanced at the cover. You're spoiling me, she teased, leaning across the table. First your bed, now poetry. What's next? He shrugged, his brown eyes twinkling behind his glasses. Maybe I'm just trying to keep up with the new 18-year-old in the building. You're making waves already. Her heart raced, and they talked. The cafe's hum fading as their conversation flowed, her comic sketches, his years curating books, the way their late-night moment had left them both wide awake. The tension was a constant undercurrent, every shared laugh and glance adding to it. Sarah's mind wandered to the warmth of his bed, the way his voice had grounded her in the dark, and she wondered how far she could push this newfound boldness. Your trouble, he said, his voice low, leaning forward, his elbow brushing hers on the table. Just turned 18 and you're already sneaking into beds, she grinned, her heart pounding. Good kind of trouble, I hope? His smile was slow, knowing a spark of mischief in his eyes. The best kind. They lingered in the booth, the poetry book open between them, and Sarah found herself opening up more than she'd planned. Her fears about her comics not being good enough, her excitement about being 18, her dreams of seeing her work in print. Thomas listened, his eyes steady, his presence grounding her like a well-worn book. You've got something special, he said, his voice sincere, his gaze unwavering. Your comics, they're bold, like you. Don't let those doubts hold you back. The world needs your stories. Her heart swelled, caught off guard by his encouragement, the warmth in his words wrapping around her like a blanket. Thanks, she said, her voice soft. That means a lot. The next day, Sarah's nerves were electric as she prepared for a community poetry reading Thomas was helping organize at the local library. She'd volunteered to assist, curious about his world, and wore a simple sweater and jeans, her hair loose, her sketchbook tucked into her bag for breaks. When she arrived, Thomas was arranging chairs, his brown eyes lighting up when he saw her. Glad you made it, he said, handing her a stack of programs, his fingers grazing hers. Didn't expect you to be an early bird after last night, she grinned, nudging him playfully. Just turned 18, gotta keep you on your toes. The reading was intimate. Locals sharing poems under soft lighting, and Sarah watched Thomas, mesmerized by his ease as he introduced each reader, his voice warm and steady, like a narrator bringing a story to life. When he read a short poem about quiet nights and unexpected visitors, his eyes found hers in the crowd, making her heart skip, her cheeks flushing as she wondered if he'd written it with her in mind. After, they stayed to clean up, their shoulders brushing as they stacked chairs, the library quiet around them. You're good at this, she said, her voice teasing. making poetry feel like an adventure. He chuckled, his eyes catching hers. Takes one to know one. You're not exactly boring, Sarah. Her cheeks flushed and she leaned closer, the air charged with unspoken possibility. Careful, Thomas, she teased, her heart pounding. I'm 18 now. I might take that personally. His smile was slow, knowing, a spark of curiosity in his eyes. Maybe I want you to. The moment lingered. The library's silence amplifying the tension, and Sarah's heart raced. Her just-turned-18 confidence urging her to lean into the spark, but she held back, savoring the thrill of the tightrope she was walking. Over the next few days, Thomas became a constant in Sarah's life, slipping into her routine with an ease that both thrilled and unnerved her. He'd stop by the cafe with misplaced library books, his grin betraying the excuse. Or they'd bump into each other in the hallway, his warm, morning neighbor, carrying a new weight after their midnight moment. They'd text late at night, sharing snippets of their lives. Thomas's stories of tracking down rare books. Sarah's dreams of publishing her graphic novel. Her sketches taking on a new boldness inspired by their connection. Each interaction was laced with flirty tension, a push and pull that left her dizzy, her heart racing with the possibilities of her new adulthood. One afternoon, Thomas invited her to a local farmer's market, claiming he needed her artist's eye to pick out some plants for his apartment. Thought you'd like the vibe, he said over the phone, his voice warm and inviting. And I'd like your company. She agreed, her heart fluttering as she chose a sundress and sneakers, her sketchbook tucked into her bag for inspiration. The market was alive with color, fresh produce, handmade crafts, and the hum of a street musician's guitar. Thomas was at her side, his cardigan brushing her arm as they navigated the stalls. His laughter warm as she teased him about his terrible bargaining skills with a vendor selling herbs. You're hopeless, she said, laughing as he overpaid for a potted basil plant, his grin unapologetic. Says the girl who snuck into my bed, he shot back, nudging her playfully, his eyes twinkling with mischief. Their hands brushed as they reached for a basket of apples, and neither pulled away, the contact lingering, sending a spark through her. They sat on a bench, sharing a warm pastry from a vendor, their conversation weaving through her comic ideas, his days in the library, the way their paths seemed to keep crossing in the most unexpected ways. The tension was a constant undercurrent, every shared laugh and glance adding to it. Sarah's heart raced, her just-turned-18 confidence urging her to lean closer. But she held back, savoring the spark, the way it made her feel alive, like a character stepping into a new chapter of her story. Your trouble, he said, his tone teasing but his eyes serious as he handed her a bite of the pastry, his fingers grazing hers. She grinned, taking a bite, her cheeks flushing. Just turned 18, trouble's my thing now. He laughed, shaking his head, his eyes never leaving hers. You're gonna keep me up past midnight, aren't you? Count on it, she said, her voice playful, her heart pounding with the thrill of their connection. A few days later, Thomas invited her to an art supply store, saying he wanted her input on some notebooks for his journaling habit. The store was a creative haven, shelves packed with pens, paints, and paper, the air filled with the faint scent of charcoal and possibility. Thomas was at her side, his presence steady, his stories of old library finds making her laugh as they wandered the aisles. They shared a laugh over a quirky sketchbook with a cat cover, their shoulders brushing as they reached for it. The contact electric. You're good at this, she said, her voice teasing as they paused at a display of colored pencils, their vibrant hues catching her eye, making a store run feel like an adventure. He grinned, picking up a pencil and twirling it between his fingers. Takes one to know one. You're not exactly boring, Sarah, she laughed, nudging him playfully. Just turned 18, gotta keep things interesting. His eyes twinkled, and he handed her the pencil to test, their fingers brushing, the moment stretching as the store faded away, leaving just the two of them. This one's bold, like you, he said, his voice low, his smile warm, her cheeks flushed, and she smiled, her heart racing with her just-turned 18 confidence. She wanted to lean closer, to push the boundaries further. But she held back, savoring the spark, the way it made her feel like her comics were coming to life. One evening, Thomas invited her to help with a community mural project in the Arts District, a collaborative effort to paint a wall with local artists. Thought it'd spark some ideas for your comics, he said, his voice warm. And I could use your artist's eye, she agreed, wearing a t-shirt and jeans, her hair tied back, ready to paint. The mural site was alive with color. Artists mixing paints, music playing from a portable speaker. Thomas was at her side, his cardigan rolled up, his hands smeared with paint as he helped outline a section. They shared a laugh over his clumsy brushstrokes, their shoulders brushing as they worked side by side. "You're hopeless," she said, laughing as he smudged paint on his cheek. "Says the girl who snuck into my bed," he shot back, nudging her playfully, his eyes twinkling. They shared a paintbrush, their fingers brushing as they passed it, the contact lingering, sending a spark through her. They talked about her comic ideas, his library days, the way their paths kept crossing. The tension was a constant undercurrent, every shared laugh and glance adding to it. Sarah's heart raced, her just-turned-18 confidence urging her to lean closer. But she held back, savoring the spark, the way it made her feel like her art was bursting to life. One evening, Thomas invited her to his apartment for a late-night book discussion, claiming he needed her thoughts on a novel he was rereading. Sarah hesitated, her heart racing at the idea of being in his space again, the memory of his bed still vivid in her mind, but her curiosity won out. His apartment was warm, lined with bookshelves, the air carrying the scent of paper and coffee. They sat on his couch, a novel open between them, a pot of tea steaming on the table, and talked, her latest comic panel, his favorite stories. The way their midnight moment had shifted something between them. "Sarah," he said, his voice low, leaning forward, his eyes steady. "I'm not just here for the books or the coffee. You know that, right?" Her heart stuttered, her breath catching, the memory of his bed flashing in her mind. "I suspected." He reached out, his fingers brushing her wrist, light but deliberate, the contact sending a shiver through her. "Good, because I'm not good at pretending I don't want something. And I want to know you." "Really know you?" She swallowed, her voice unsteady, her heart pounding with the thrill of her own daring. "You're trouble, Thomas." "Maybe," he said, his thumb tracing a slow circle on her wrist, the touch sparking something new. "But you're not running. Just turned 18 and you're already breaking all the rules." She laughed, a shaky sound, and leaned into the moment, the heat of his touch igniting a fire in her just-turned-18 heart. "Maybe I like breaking them," she said, her voice playful but honest, her eyes locked on his. He smiled, his eyes twinkling with a mix of amusement and something deeper. "Good, because I'm starting to like it too." The following week, Sarah's life felt like a comic panel bursting with color, each moment with Thomas adding new lines to her story. The cafe was busy, but he was a constant distraction, his presence lingering in her thoughts like a half-finished sketch. He'd started leaving notes with his misplaced books, small, handwritten things tucked into pages. "Found a poem today that reminded me of you. Too bold for the shelves? T." Or, "Bet I can guess your favorite comic by the end of the week. Hint, it's not Batman." T, each note made her smile, her heart race, her just-turned-18 confidence growing with every interaction. Her coworker Mia noticed, cornering her at the cafe during a lull. "Thomas, huh?" she said, her tone teasing but cautious, her eyes narrowing. "He's got you all flustered." "Be careful, Sarah." "I'm just having fun," Sarah said, but the words felt hollow, her mind replaying the warmth of his bed, the spark of his touch. She wasn't sure what she was doing, only that Thomas made her feel alive, like a character stepping into a bold new arc. One evening, Thomas invited her to a rooftop movie night, a community event in their building with a projector and blankets. "Thought you'd like the vibe," he said, his voice warm over the phone. "And I'd like you there." She agreed, her heart fluttering as she chose a sweater and jeans, her hair loose, her sketchbook tucked into her bag for doodling. The rooftop was cozy, fairy lights strung along the edges, neighbors chatting softly as a classic black-and-white film played. Thomas was at her side, his presence steady, his laughter warm as she teased him about his love for old movies. "You're such a nerd," she said, laughing as he defended a cheesy romance scene, his eyes crinkling with amusement. "Says the girl who snuck into my bed," he shot back, nudging her playfully, his grin disarming. They shared a blanket, their shoulders brushing as they watched the screen, the city lights a quiet backdrop to their conversation. They talked about her comics, his library days, the way their lives seemed to keep colliding in the most unexpected ways. The tension was a constant undercurrent, every shared laugh and glance adding to it. At one point, Thomas adjusted the blanket, his hand brushing hers, the contact lingering, sending a shiver through her. "You're good at this," she said, her voice teasing, her heart racing. "Making a movie night feel like an adventure." He grinned, his eyes catching the light of the projector. "Takes one to know one." "You're not exactly boring, Sarah," she laughed, her just-turned-18 confidence urging her to lean closer, but she held back, savoring the spark. The way it made her feel like her comics were coming to life. One night, they met for a late-night coffee run at a 24-hour diner, the city quiet around them. The diner was all neon lights and retro booths, the air filled with the scent of fries and coffee. They sat across from each other, sharing a plate of fries, Thomas's presence steady, his stories of rare books and quiet library moments painting vivid pictures in her mind. But the tension was a constant undercurrent, every shared laugh and glance adding to it, the memory of his bed lingering like an unfinished sketch. "You're different," he said, his voice low, leaning forward, his elbow brushing hers on the table. "Just turned 18 and you've got this fire. It's hard to look away." Her cheeks flushed, and she tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, her heart pounding. "Good, I don't want you to look away." His laugh was low, warm, his eyes twinkling with a mix of amusement and something deeper. "Careful what you wish for." They lingered in the diner, the fries growing cold, and Sarah opened up more than she'd planned, her fears about her comics not measuring up, her excitement about being 18, her dreams of seeing her work in print. Thomas listened, his eyes steady, his presence grounding her like a well-loved book. "You've got something special," he said, his voice sincere, his gaze unwavering. "Your comics, they're bold like you. Don't let those doubts hold you back. The world needs your stories." Her heart swelled, and she smiled, caught off guard by his encouragement, the warmth in his words wrapping around her like a blanket. "Thanks," she said, her voice soft. "That means a lot." They walked back to the building, the night air cool, the city quiet around them. At her apartment door, Sarah turned to face him, her keys dangling, her heart pounding. The memory of his bed, the bold move that had started this spark, flashed in her mind, and the tension between them felt stronger than ever. "You're making it really hard to keep this neighborly," she said, her voice a mix of teasing and truth, her hazel eyes locked on his. Thomas stepped closer, his hand resting on the doorframe above her, his body close enough to feel his warmth, his presence steady but electric. "Neighborly's overrated," he said, his voice low, rich, carrying the weight of their shared moments. "What do you want, Sarah?" Her mouth went dry, her heart racing with the thrill of her new adulthood. What did she want? Safety, simplicity, the life she knew? Or this, him, the thrill, the fire he ignited in her just-turned-18 heart? "I don't know," she whispered, but her eyes lingered on his lips, betraying her, the memory of his bed a quiet pulse in the back of her mind. He smiled, slow and knowing, his brown eyes warm but intense. "You do, and I'm not going anywhere until you say it." She laughed, a shaky sound, and stepped back into her doorway, clutching her bag like a shield, her heart pounding with the possibilities of her new adulthood. "Good night, Thomas," she said, her voice soft but charged with unspoken promise, the spark between them brighter than the city lights outside. His laugh was warm, promising, his eyes locked on hers as he leaned back. "Good night, Sarah. But this isn't over." She closed the door, her heart racing, the memory of his bed, his voice, his touch lingering like a sketch she couldn't erase. As she leaned against the door, she smiled, her just-turned-18 heart ablaze with the thrill of what might come next, knowing she was ready to keep pushing the boundaries of her new adulthood, one bold move at a time.